Chief Justice John Roberts, he put a temporary hold on President Joe Biden's attempt to get rid of Title 42. That was put into place there at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. It was a health-related rule that Donald Trump put in to say because of COVID, we don't want anybody crossing over the border. We don't want to accept any asylum applications. We don't want to accept anybody who comes across the border. It was put into place as a precaution against COVID. And we all know it was a bunch of BS.
Right.
It wasn't put in to prevent spread of COVID in the United States. It was put in because Donald Trump didn't want to accept any immigrants, didn't want to accept any asylum applications. So Joe Biden tried to end that and go back to the old system where somebody would come to the border and they would apply for asylum and be released into the United States to see an immigration judge and have their asylum case determined before an immigration judge. And Joe Biden was sued when he tried to end Title 42 because people said he didn't follow the rules, the rules of ending a regulation. The Arizona Attorney General Mark Bovanich, he took the lead for the states, and he said in a statement yesterday that getting rid of Title 42 will recklessly and needlessly endanger more Americans and migrants by exacerbating the catastrophe that is occurring at our southern border. And it is, by the way, it is a catastrophe what's going on there.
Yeah.
Nobody on either side, Democrat or Republican, says what's going on there is very good. And besides getting rid of Title 42, Biden wants to try to attempt to end the Remain in Mexico program. That was put in prior to Title 42. And the Remain in Mexico was that if you did apply for asylum, you got to remain in Mexico while you wait to see an immigration judge for your asylum claim, which could be years.
Yep.
And in the process, sit there and wait at the border in Tent City. So Biden tried to end that as well. He said it's inhumane. That also is not ending at the moment.
Wow.
So both of the Trump rules, Title 42 and
are still in effect.
Remain in Mexico, are still in effect. And I'll tell you the truth, it's a big problem because I see what's going on right now. People can't file for asylum. They can't come to the border and file for asylum. So what everybody's doing, at least what I see in my practice, is they're literally jumping over the fence. And then they wait there on the other side of the fence. If they don't run away when they jump over the fence, then they really haven't evaded authorities.
Oh, wow.
They sit there, they wait for immigration officers to come get them. They sit in detention for a few days. And what happened is that detention is so overburdened that they ultimately get released because there's nowhere to hold them. There's no jails or anything. They get released, and then nobody even asks for an asylum claim. And then they say, okay, you'll go see a judge in 1 year or 2 years from now.
But they're already here.
They're already here.
Wow.
So that's what's happening right now. And then people with true asylum claims who are scared to jump over the fence, they're still remaining in Mexico.
Yeah.
So there were some senators who tried to pass a bipartisan deal. They said, we're gonna give what the Republicans want, which is remain in Mexico. We don't want people jumping over the fence. We don't want to reward people from crossing over the border. We want to do their asylum claims from Mexico, wait in Mexico to come to the United States. And in return, if you do jump over the fence, build more detention centers and have more judges and more immigration officers to hold people who do jump over the fence so that they don't get released into the United States, and have quick hearings. Hearing in a week or two, determine whether or not you're qualified to stay in the United States or not, rather than release and wait for 1 or 2 years. And in return, give different forms of amnesty to different people who are already in the United States, dreamers and agricultural workers. That died. Yeah. And I'll say, you know what?
I mean, how many sessions in a court day is that too? Like?
Right. I mean, nobody says remain in Mexico is pleasant, but if they're going to hire enough judges, enough immigration officers, and they can process claims quickly, I would accept that more than what I would accept now, especially if there would have been an amnesty. And it seemed like it was a deal ready to be made, and everybody's been talking about this for years, that this is the deal. You know, more fence, more detention centers in return for an amnesty, quicker turnarounds in asylum claims, quicker turnarounds to see immigration judges rather than waiting years and years and years. But it didn't happen. Did you see what happened in Arizona? The Justice Department filed a lawsuit. The governor of Arizona put 20-foot shipping containers along the border on federal land in places where there was no border fence. And on top of the 20-foot shipping containers, these big shipping containers that go in, ships that come across from China to the United States, on top of those containers, they put barbed wire. And they put that as a makeshift fence between Arizona and Mexico. And that was done by Republican Governor Doug Ducey. And he was sued by the federal government saying, A, you're violating federal land, B, you're not allowed to enforce immigration law, and C, putting shipping containers on the border with some that isn't stopping anybody from coming to the United States, although it's a really good photo op for the people who are anti-immigrant to make it look like you're doing something.
Wow.
So he's leaving office very soon. He did this about 3 weeks before he left office. So you would say, why is he
right at your?
Why is he doing this? He's leaving office because he lost to a Democrat, and the Democrat is going to Governor-elect Katie Hobbs is going to take away those shipping containers. So those shipping containers are there for about 3 weeks, and there's a lawsuit anyway. And you say, well, why is he doing that? Well, all of this craziness that you see, like DeSantis, convincing immigrants who came across the border, putting them on a plane and sending them to Nantucket and Chicago and New York, putting the container boxes in front. All these Republican governors are trying to make, Abbott in Texas, they're all trying to make themselves look very tough on immigration because they're all looking for higher office.
Oh, of course.
So that's what it is.
Right.
It's political gamesmanship, and we're dealing with people's lives. See, that's where the problem comes in. And as I said before, unfortunately, there is going to be no political deal with any sort of DREAM Act or amnesty. And unfortunately, Dreamers are going to be in that same situation for years.
Oh my goodness.
Because we're going to have a Republican Senate, and I don't foresee in a Republican Senate any immigration bills or laws passing. And as a result of that, my advice to everybody out there who is undocumented or being processed, the laws are going to stay the same. Nothing is going to happen, certainly in the next 2 years and probably in the next 6 years, in my opinion, drastically that's going to change any immigration laws. Maybe you'll see some tweaks here and there.
But, all right.
So figure out how to get your immigration status resolved within the framework of what the law is now. Dreamers, don't wait for the DREAM Act to pass. Figure out how to get a green card. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.